The main motif for Egypt is Osiris was one of the 5 children born to Nut and Geb, according to the calendar interpretation story, whereas it's just 4 children, and he's the oldest of 4, and so the second child of Nut and Geb is Set, or Seth. So you have Osiris, then Seth, and then you have the daughters, Isis and Nephthys. Tongue twister. And what you have is a common pattern utilized throughout the Torah, but the story goes as follows. Because Osiris was the birthright blessing child, he was designated as the king on earth, and he was a good king, reigned in righteousness, taught the people all the sciences and the arts, and everybody prospered. Set was the runner-up, and because Osiris was doing such a great job, Set would never become the king. He wanted to become king, and so he held a banquet, a feast, and invited everybody in the kingdom, as well as his personal followers and Osiris. He had a contest during the feast where he had built a coffin and then had people see if they could fit in the coffin. And strangely enough, only Osiris was able to fit in the coffin, as Set and his followers nailed the coffin shut when Osiris got in. 9-inch nails, if any Christians are watching, and set the coffin adrift on the Nile River, thus flowing into the Mediterranean, and up into Byblos, where it grew into a tree. Isis, his sister, who was also his wife, if you recognize the Abraham account, say unto Pharaoh, you are my sister, so that he would not murder me. And and Isis sent out her servants to find the body of her husband and bring him back to Egypt. They found him in Byblos as a tree, brought him back to Egypt. Isis had magical powers, resurrected Osiris, brought him back to life. Set found out about it, and as he was now the king, who had taken the place of his brother Osiris, since there were no other heirs for the throne, Set became the king. He found out that Osiris had been found, went to find him, found him, this time murdered him by chopping up his body into 14 pieces. Those 14 pieces he then threw into the Nile River, which then spread throughout all the world, through the ocean currents. Isis again, hearing upon the murder and the dismemberment of her husband, sent her servants all over the world to gather in the pieces of Osiris's body back to Egypt, where she then assembled the pieces except for one piece that was missing. And it was necessary for her that if she were going to have an heir to the throne to restore the kingdom, as I've discussed concerning sunrise, sunset, the battle at night with the serpent, and the born again of the next generation to restore the kingdom of the dead father, she had to form this body part in order to conceive a child, the heir to the throne. And so, yeah, you can guess which one's missing. And so then you go to the house of Israel, the 12 tribes. But Joseph, as the birthright blessing son, got a double portion. So there were 13 tribes of Israel. And guess who else was a child of Jacob, which means usurper? Dinah, female, without the male body part that Isis had to fashion so that she can conceive the heir to the throne, to take back the kingdom, restore the kingdom of Osiris. And that's the main story of the death of Osiris by his brother Set. And we're not going to get into the battle because that's coming up with Noah. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to it today, but we now have the story in Genesis chapter 4 of Cain and Abel, taken directly from that Egyptian story. It's switched in the sense that Cain is over the crops, as Osiris was over the crops. Abel is over the small cattle, the sheep and the goats, and Set was over sheep and goats. But you have Cain murdering his brother. And under those conditions, Cain would have usurped the kingdom from Abel. It doesn't refer to any kingdom that's going on here because Adam is still around as the king in this particular case. And so it leaves all that part out of the story. And the redactor is telling a different story with this. Cain has a little discussion with Yahweh and about, just offer up a good offering, Cain, and you'll be accepted. But that's not the Egyptian story that's intended here. After Cain murders his brother Abel, we get to the next born child. Where's that brother? And okay, this is Cain's genealogy. And so Cain's still alive. He's still cast out, which merges the Horus taking back the throne, and Set gets cast out. Here we have Cain getting cast out for having murdered his brother. So there's a twist there. And then we get to Genesis chapter 4, verse 25. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son. He's the son to restore the throne, or to take over on the throne, because Abel is gone, or Abel is dead, and Cain has been cast out. And this is where the redactor really screws up the Egyptian narrative, because the name is Seth. Set. So he understands the Egyptian story. Nevertheless, he refuses to comply with it, because the children of Seth, the one who takes over on the throne for the kingdom, eventually gives birth to Noah. Noah is the one who restores the kingdom as the birthright blessing son, with the flood that occurs patternistic of the last days, but then becomes the father, just like in that cyclical pattern. Son becomes the father, father becomes the son. And it corresponds also to the Egyptian battle of Horus versus Set, when Horus gives his seed to Seth to eat, and Seth gives birth to a branch, the Messiah, who is Horus. And Horus then, in this contest, is judged to be the rightful heir to the throne. Horus becomes the restoring Pharaoh, and Seth is cast out from Egypt. And what we have here is a little switching of characters with their roles that they performed, and an ignoring of details essential to the story, as Cain gets cast out prematurely when he's supposed to be the one who is on the throne for Abel. Seth, the next son that's born, signifying that the redactor did know this, and illustrating the part of the story where Horus gives seed to Set, and Set gives birth to Horus, just as Seth, in this biblical account, gives birth to Noah. And so you can see the alterations that were done here. And that's good for this one.